Now, as I approach the City Hall building, I want to point out that, as it's written in the scriptures, that we are to honor the governments that have been set up. And this is interesting because all the power and the authority is by God. So even the authority that crucified the Lord Jesus Christ was put into place sovereignly by God, which is why Jesus, when Pontius Pilate said to him, "Don't you know that I have the power to free you or the power to kill you?" And Jesus responded saying, "You would have no power unless it was granted to you from above." And we should recognize the same thing. That notice that Jesus wasn't rioting. He wasn't cursing and fighting and taking up arms against the government. He was recognizing that he was going to lay his own life down, and that God could do immeasurably more with his obedience than by causing more strife. And this is very hard for us to comprehend because, again, like if somebody is trying to oppress us and trying to take away our rights and things like this, it's natural to want to fight back. And so, yeah, there's a lot of different debates and conversations to have there, but ultimately it's important to respect what God has appointed. And so that's why, if you notice, Paul, likewise, when he was early in his career as a servant of Christ, and I should say not so much a career, but his ministry, he was ready to lash back out when the guards slapped him, when the high priest ordered one of the guards to smack him in the face. And he said, "God's going to strike you, you whitewash wall," straight to the high priest, who would essentially be the ruler of the Jews at that time. And so the guards rightfully cited their code, which is actually the law of Moses as well. They were saying you can't speak evil of a ruler. And so, or that's the high priest. And then Paul, knowing the law of God in his heart, said, "Oh, that's right. I didn't know that was the high priest. You can't speak evil of a ruler." And so he repented. And then later you see him going even before the Gentile emperors, who were probably very despicable people, but he was still honoring the role. And this is the grace of God. The grace of God is to, through gentleness and honor and dignity, to be able to, again, don't resist evil, just convict it. That's why Jesus asked questions. Is it lawful to hit me? Like, can you convict me of whatever sin I did? Like, why did you strike me? And ultimately, again, like a lamb led to the slaughter, he just didn't open his mouth. And so not all of us are capable of doing that, especially if we're just in the flesh. The flesh wants to fight back. But in this case, it's important to find out that the reason why I'm saying all this is that the government should be respected, even if they're doing things incorrectly. There is a legal process. The way the law is written ultimately is in our favor. Sometimes the law is not used lawfully, and that's usually where frustrations and riots and all these kinds of things occur, because the people that are put in power ultimately have the responsibility. And Virginia is pretty amazing because it explicitly is written from a Christian point of view, that we all have a mutual duty to practice Christian love, charity, and forbearance. So while the nation may not consider itself a Christian nation, and the Commonwealth of Virginia may not consider itself a Christian commonwealth, that ultimately the knowledge of what Christ did in laying down his life as a king for the good of the people, his subjects, is exactly the kind of nobility and principle that every person that takes the authority, whether mayor, judge, city council, sheriff, any ruler, should take on that same mindset and same heart. So